For those who have been watching this channel for some time, you may know that I don't often feature muscle cars, in part because I don't find muscle cars all that special anymore, simply because you go to a car show and you see a ton of Camaros, Mustangs, Corvettes, etc. But there is one muscle car that I admittedly pine for, and it's because it's just an absolutely gorgeous automobile in all respects, whether that's the styling, the engines, the transmissions, the interiors, and that is the 1968 Dodge Charger. The 1967 Charger certainly wasn't a bad-looking vehicle, and it had that razor-like hidden headlamp grille up front. But there's just something about the 1968 model where the car looks longer, wider, just has these beautiful creases and bulges and Coke bottle shape to it that it just makes the car look so much better. And of course, part of the coolness is just the fact that if you're a movie buff and you love cars, of course you've seen the 1968 film with Steve McQueen, Bullitt. And the Charger, and obviously a 1968 Ford Mustang GT, are the two stars of what is an amazing car chase. The Charger being driven by top Hollywood stuntman Bill Hickman, who also drove the stunt cars in the French Connection for the car chase and also in the 7-Ups. Drove a 1973 Pontiac Granville. But let's take a walk around what I think is my absolute favorite 1968 Dodge Charger that I've ever seen. And this was at the Motor Muster show this past summer in Dearborn, Michigan. Here it is, and boy is this car gorgeous in its black and I believe it's called Aztec Red color combination. But first, a little bit about the Charger. The nameplate began in the 1966 model year, and it continued through continuously until 1978 when it was sunset for the first time. It was subsequently revived in 1982 and was produced until 1987 and sunset yet again. And then Dodge revived the Charger nameplate in 2006, and it's still being produced. To this day, you still see many of them on the road. The first Charger was actually a concept car that was shown in 1964, and there was a 1965 concept car called the Charger 2 that was pretty close to the 1966 production version. The first generation was produced from 1966 to 7, and I've already shown you a picture of the 66 and 7. But to me, my favorite is really the second generation Charger, and most specifically the 1968 version of it. By the 1968 model year, the Charger had lost its kind of AMC Marlin-esque profile and became a much more muscular-looking, masculine vehicle. And I think that evolution was just spectacular. I even love the side marker lights up front here. A wonderful little detail. It looks like it's just a little pimple there on the fender. And apparently buyers must have agreed that this 1968 model was styled better than the 66 or the 1967. In 1966, the Charger sold 37,000 units. And in 1967, it sold just 16,000 units. But in 1968, Charger production skyrocketed to 96,000 units. It was really a triumph for Chrysler Corporation. And just take a look at this vehicle. I love that this owner's put the Redline tires on it as well to complement the Aztec Red interior, and that it has these poverty caps. And again, another detail that I really enjoy are both of those side marker lights, both front and rear. Take a look at the rear three-quarter view here, and this car has what designers would call a Coke bottle shape. Notice that kick up at the rear, near the rear window and toward the C-pillar. And if you looked at this car from a bird's eye view or plan view, you'd also notice that that fender bulges out very significantly at the same time, just like a Coke bottle laying on its side. I also have to say I love the 4 round taillights. Some may say that's kind of Corvette-esque, but it just doesn't appear that way on this car, and it seems very fitting. And of course, that beautiful exposed gas cap and the flying buttress roof line. There you can see the rear fender bulge and how it tapers again back in toward the rear. This car has some of the most beautiful sculpting, I think, of any Chrysler vehicle ever produced. It's an Elwin Engel design team home run, and there you go. Just look at how large that bulge is and how far the flying buttresses are away from the edge of the fender. It's just enormous. You don't see that on cars today anymore. Often the rear C-pillar and the rear fender form one continuous shape. And in fact, they do on the later model Charger to the right of this car. Take a look inside the interior, And the dash isn't anything to write home about, but I have to say the color is awesome. And you have the tick-tock-tack with the clock that's in the middle of the tachometer there. And I love these seats with the perforations, and looks like almost a piece of skin that's been slit open with a darker red insert there in the vinyl. I just don't know what to say. This car is spectacular. That pouch, though, that's on either side to hold a number of items looks a bit out of place to me, but gosh, I can't complain. And I wish the dash were a little bit less plain Jane, but you can see it has Chrysler's typical rocker switches of the era that they often had. One thing this car is missing is optional headrests. It didn't have them, but oh well, we won't hold that against it. Now, of course, you could get a number of different engine options in your 1968 Dodge Charger. How else would it be called a muscle car? The standard engine in the Charger was a 318 cubic inch V8 outfitted with a 2-barrel carburetor that didn't really make all that much horsepower, but it was sufficient. It made 230 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. One up from that was a 383 cubic inch 2-barrel V8. Again, a lower compression engine, 9.2 to 1, making 290 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. One up from that, which is what this car has, is a premium fuel 383 with 10 to 1 compression, 4-barrel carburetor, making 330 horsepower, 425 pound-feet of torque. And if you were so lucky as to get a Charger RT, which this one is not, which came with a number of racing stripes, bucket seats, 3-spoke steering wheel, electric clock, cigarette lighter, an ashtray light, front and rear bumper guards, wheel opening moldings, things that weren't quite standard on the regular Charger. You would also get a standard 440 cubic inch V8 that made 375 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, breathing through a 4-barrel carburetor with 10.1 to 1 compression. And the absolute top dog engine in these Chargers was the 426 cubic inch Hemi V8 that most people know about, with 2 4-barrel carburetors, 10.25 to 1 compression ratio, mechanical valve lifters, and making an underrated 425 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. But no matter what Charger you got, whether it was the base, the RT, the 318 powered engine, or one with the Hemi, the car just looked absolutely menacing and superb, especially in a color combination like this black with Aztec red interior. I admittedly don't drool over muscle cars, but I drool over this car. It is just the sexiest looking muscle car, or one of the sexiest looking cars, period, that I have seen of all time, I would say. The only real downside to these, having driven a number of them, is that I will say they feel a little tinny, and that's a function of Chrysler's unibody. They do feel rather stiff, especially the cars that are the RTs, because they came standard with an RT handling package that included special torsion bars, heavy-duty shock absorbers and springs, and larger sway bars, and of course the so-called Bumblebee racing stripes, which clearly added to the handling of the vehicle. But the Charger is one of those vehicles of the 60s era, one of the pinnacles of Chrysler design, as they're introducing the fuselage era cars the next year on the full-size lineup, that I just think is an absolutely stellar looker and just a wonderful vehicle. One last cool feature of these Chargers is the turn signal indicators you can see here that are part of the hood scoops. Chrysler had turn signal indicators on a number of its vehicles, but I just thought that this integration into that scalloped out area in the hood was just spectacular. So as you can tell, for those who don't think I like muscle cars, I absolutely love 68 Chargers, and I think this particular example is beyond phenomenal. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it on the 68 Dodge Charger. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the video thumbnails at bottom left and right for some suggestions for you.